Thank you, Dr. Williams. Mr. Bytyqi.
Chairman Engel, ranking members of McLeod, members of the committee, thank you for hosting this important hearing and inviting me to testify. My name is Ilir Bytyqi.
Mr. Bytyqi, could you just pull the microphone a little closer to your
Sure.
lips?
Thank you.
Okay.
My name is Ilir Bytyqi. On behalf of my family and other victims of war crimes committed during the Kosovo War, I am here to offer you the word of simple message. Victims cannot be ignored. If you want lasting peace in Balkans, we cannot be ignored. If you care about justice, we cannot be ignored. And if all you want is simple the truth, we cannot be ignored. As I hope to make clear today, this history is still being written. This committee can help shape its course. I come from an American Albanian immigrant family in New York. I grew up between United States and Kosovo with lots of siblings, including my brother Fatos, Uli, Agron, and Mehmet. We were close family, one for all for one. But 6 boys in New York, imagine the headaches we gave my mother. In the late 90s, we started hearing about what was happening in Kosovo. We were devastated to see images of our friends, families being expelled from their homes and murdered in their villages. We worried over sick, thinking about my mother, sister, and my brother Fatos, who were in Kosovo at the time. Around this time, we got word from American Albanian community in New York that people were going over to fight against President Milosevic's barbaric campaign in ethnic cleansing. Uli, Agron, Mehmet went without hesitation. They weren't scared. The last thing I told them was, be safe, you know I expect you to come back. Towards the end of the war, my brothers decided to stay in Kosovo and help with the rebuild efforts. One day, they agreed to go in a humanitarian mission to help some Romans, neighbors, get to a safe zone. Eventually, Serbian police came in unmarked cars and in plain clothing and kidnapped my brothers. They took them to the other side of Serbia, to Petrovo Selo. 2 years later, their bodies were found on top of a mass grave in Petrovo Selo, with their hands tied behind their backs and bullet holes through the back of their heads. My brothers were sent to these killing grounds because they were Albanians. They were murdered because they were Americans. This had devastated my family. For the past 20 years, my brother Fatos and I have been fighting for justice because the Serbian government won't. In 2015, then Prime Minister Aleksandar Vučić admitted as much. He looked my brother Fatos in the eye and said, in uncertain manner, in my mind, only 2 people are responsible for these murders. Then he named the names. This is not some unsolved mystery. It's a simple matter of will. Then as Prime Minister and now as a President, Aleksandar Vučić protects war criminals who murdered my brothers. President Vučić has no shame about this. He has threatened my family for our efforts for 5 years. Now, he has promised members of this committee and the United States Vice President that he would resolve this case. Earlier this year in Munich, President Vučić bragged to Serbian media that he told members of this committee that NATO officials should be extradited to Serbia, not the war criminals who murdered the American citizens. This is a systematic problem with Serbia. The government consistently protects war criminals, creating a political culture that intimidates witnesses and victims. Convicted war criminals are regularly given a hero's welcome when they exit the ICTU prison. Recently, President Vučić had an audience to call Slobodan Milosevic a great leader. Serbian war crimes institutes are failing in many ways. They issue very few indictments. The few indictments they allow are low-level suspects and direct perpetrators. Superior officers are shielded from scrutiny. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, the Humanitarian Law Center, the European Commission, the European Parliament, and others have each noted this defect. Recently, Serbia did not have a leading war crime prosecutor for 18 months. When Serbia parliament finally elected one, the candidate won based on the pledge of prioritizing cases of Serbian victims, not cases like ours. These are many other problems illustrated in lack of effort to will resolve war crimes. Mr. Chairman, this effort affects other issues that I know you care deeply about. There are still over 1,300 missing persons from the war, many of whom had not been found because the cover-up operations that occurred at the end of the war. The main suspect in Bytyqi case and principal responsibility over many of these covered operations. To date, Serbia has not prosecuted a single person for the cover-ups. The good news is that concrete things that the Congress, the European Union, Serbia, and even Kosovo can help these causes. First of all, I urge you to do the following. Pass the HCON resolution, 32 resolution regarding the case that was recently introduced by Republican Lee Zeldin, Chairman Engel, and Republican Grace Meng. When the Congress speaks, Serbia listens. Make sure that the European Union counterparts prioritize these issues as Serbia currently in the midst of their EU accession process. To date, Serbia has been allowed to open relevant chapters just by making empty promises. This must stop. Considering legislation to give the President and my family more tools to pursue justice in this case, where Americans are killed abroad by foreign governments. Our advocates at the Pretrial Rights International have forwarded a legislative proposal to some of your offices regarding these issues. Would be happy to share with any other members of the committee. Second, I urge the European Union to do one simple thing: start prioritizing accountability for war crimes during both Serbia accession process, during the related dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade. There are a number of ways to do this. Mr. Chairman, I strongly support your call to not allow Serbia to enter the EU until it cleans up its act. Serbia should not be allowed to enter the EU until it proves that it can do and will complete prosecution mid- and high-ranking war criminals and the responsible for the cover-up operation. Additional, the international community has taken creative approaches to work with the countries in the region that have similarly faced problems, such as locating trials outside the country borders. It is now time for the EU, United States, and the international partners to consider similar options for Serbia. Also, the EU should not shy away from difficulties but relate issues like justice sector cooperation between Serbia and Kosovo. Both countries need to cooperate in all types of cross-border criminal investigations. The EU should make sure that they have agreement in place. To Serbian leaders, I urge you to change your course. There is no shame on facing one's past, only honor. Until Serbian politicians, leaders support their efforts to honestly confront Serbia's past, Serbia will never become a great nation that we all know and hope it can be. Finally, we are truly grateful for the many recognition that the Kosovo government has given to my family and other war crime victims. But the Kosovo government can do more. It should make war crime justice in Serbia and regional cooperation in war crimes cases frontline issue in the dialogue with Serbia. As a sovereign nation, Kosovo also has the right to take real action in these cases. We urge you, the international community, to start prioritizing these issues. Thank you for your consideration of my testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Bytyqi. Ms. Krasniqi Goodman.